Hello and welcome to Rock Your Block and today's segment of First Home Alliance. I am Don Scoggins, the chairman of the board for First Home Alliance. Today I'm sitting in for Larry Laws on the First Home Alliance segment of this show. We share with you things that are taking place in the area of housing and the people that are making it happen. We also like to answer questions you may have to help you dream of home ownership a success. On today's episode, we have a very special guest. He is a full-time real estate consultant and managing broker with Prince William Realty. He is also a commercial pilot and weekend flight instructor. He is the author of a real estate blog called The Fence Line. Today he's going to share with us knowledge about current real estate trends, deals, and tips to help you make informed and knowledgeable decisions about one of the biggest investments of your life. Please welcome to our show, Nouman Mirza. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do.
Well, like you mentioned earlier, I'm a real estate broker with Prince William Realty, and I'm also a commercial airline pilot with a regional airline. I mainly help people out purchase homes, sell homes, do property management and other various services. And when I'm not doing that, I'm flying passengers around and flying an airplane.
Being a pilot must be a lot of fun. Does that interfere with your real estate business?
No, not so much. I've got it down to a very good science. You know, I work 3 to 4 days, and then 3 to 4 days I'm doing real estate. But on top of that, I've got a great team of realtors that help me while I'm away. So if I'm away, I'm usually taking care of the tedious paperwork and taking that remotely, doing everything remotely with today's technology. And then when I'm here in Virginia, I help people find homes. That's
good. Well, it's good that you're able to balance the two careers that you have. They both sound like they're very exciting careers, and they're very can be very invigorating, and I wouldn't say frustrating, but I'm sure they can be very trying at times. How do you seem to keep your team and the company together with all your various?
Well, they can be trying, but like I mentioned earlier, we've got a good team. We've got about 20 people that work for us in the office, and the best part about every single one of them is when I'm not here, all I have to do is send them a text message or call them, and they're able to jump on the issue right away, whether it's going out and showing a home to a client, or whether it's simply going out, taking some photos of a house and just putting the house on the market. So they've got a very good balance on top of that.
That's
so.
Good.
And like I said, it's easy to keep track of everything.
With the many real estate companies around, what would you say sets First Prince William Realty apart with some of the others?
Prince William Realty, it was started with my dad and I. We started it back in 2009. It was also at a time when all the other real estate companies were kind of closing doors, and we took the opportunity, just said, let's go ahead and start our own company. And when we started the company, the biggest thing that we focused on was we wanted to give our clients the full service, what any regular real estate brokerage offers, but also give our clients the advice to provide them with financial wealth. So that was our primary goal. When we set out, one of the things that we set ourselves apart on is we help people with foreclosures, short sales, whether you were the person that was actually getting foreclosed on, or whether you were an investor looking to purchase a foreclosure. And what we did, one of the stories in the beginning, we had a client that came out and said, I've got my house that's foreclosing. What can you do? Well, we had an investor ready to go. We actually ended up purchasing their house from them and let them rent back. Now, they were still staying in the same house. Their neighbors never knew that they actually foreclosed on the house. They continued to live in the house. He rebuilt his credit. 3 years later, he came out to me and said, hey, I'm ready to buy a house now. And we ended up going out there, and he bought a new home.
A new home, right.
So we do help a lot of investors. We get them into, whether it's your first home or your 20th purchase, we'll give you advice on how to make that an income source. Every house can turn into an income source, and we're going to grow your investment portfolio by helping you with real estate.
At your company, the various agents, do they work independently for themselves or with themselves primarily, or do they as a part of a team?
They are, every single agent that we have is an independent contractor, so they're all working independently. But the biggest advantage that we have, like I said, it's about 20 people, and we're still growing and hiring more. But what we do is make it a family environment. So even though it's individual, it's still a team. So everybody operates as a team. There's times when I'm not available, and people will go out and help, or there's other agents that are not available, and if I'm in town or my dad's in, he'll help out, or one of the other 18 people will help out.
Well, how does each person kind of keep up with what's going on with someone else's deal, I guess, or someone else's transaction? Able to do that, or?
Yes, one of the first things when we started this company, because I knew I would always be traveling, you know, whether it was through the airlines or just traveling as a normal passenger. It was always, travel was part of my plans. And what I did was I created an online platform myself where everybody puts in the transactions. So those transactions are all online. They're all managed online. From day one, it's all been, I can pull up the transactions on my phone if I wanted to right now. Get to an iPad, I can pull it up. Give me a computer, I can pull it up. It doesn't matter whether I'm using my computer or your computer. I'll be able to pull that information up and make sure we're all in the loop on that transaction.
The next question is, I was going to ask you, in addition to real estate, what do you do? But I imagine the next thing you do is dealing with the piloting. You pretty much explained that. Is there anything else that you like to share?
I do. I always like to keep my plate full, and I've currently I sit on the board of directors for the Real Estate Association of Prince William, also known as PWAR. And then last year, for the last 2 years, I was actually chairing the Young Professionals Network at PWAR. And one of the things we did with the Young Professionals Network was we did a lot of community events, community fundraisers. I taught a lot of technology classes. We hosted a 5K for the Boys and Girls Club, raised over $1,200. We did a casino night, raised about $800. So did a lot of community events. We've done casino nights, 5Ks, fundraisers. We'll do happy hours, just to kind of stay in the community, give back to the community that gives to us, and also help out in any way we can.
Is this through the Prince William Board of Realtors, or is this through the Young Network? The
Young Professionals Network is actually part of the board. So I'm actually a director on the board, but I've also served positions as the chair for the Young Professionals Network.
In your opinion, what would you say, how's the housing market today? How is it?
The housing market is actually doing much better. It's improving. It's growing every single day. Between January of 2014 and January of 2015, the market increased. There was an increase of about 7.8% in home sales prices. That's just in 1 year. Has it gotten to where it was back in 2009? Not exactly, but it's getting there slowly. There's a lot of key indicators. You know, prices are going up, and
why should, what I would say in that regard, why should a person buy a home right now, or why should they sell right now? What would you?
Buying right now, the primary thing that we have with buyers is with credit scores. You know, banks are able to finance with credit scores as low as 600s. Interest rates are low. People can get a fixed interest rate, you know, about 4%, depending on your credit and other factors, but you can get anywhere from 4 to 5% or lower fixed for 30 years. So that's a really good advantage for a buyer. Prices are still low. You know, they have gone up 7.8%, but they're not there where they were at the peak of the market right before the housing crash. So people still have the opportunity to get into a home if somebody's considering new homes. Builders are out all over Northern Virginia finding lots and building new homes. So that's always a good market indicator that things are moving in the right direction.
One other question in that regard, I knew at one time there were many incentives for first-time home buyers. Do they still have those incentives?
There are many incentives. You've got interest rates. You know, buyers can buy with a down payment of 3.5%. So that's one of the good incentives. There's other programs out there where you can actually use government grants to pay for that 3.5%, so you don't need a down payment. To top that, there's mortgage associations and even lenders that I work with that actually pay for your closing cost. So you could have government paying for your down payment, you could have your closing costs paid by the seller or the lender, and on top of that, the mortgage interest that's being charged, the PMI that people commonly know as, actually just went down.
Yeah,
For, last year,
true.
it was at 1.35%. Around this area, it has gone down to 0.85%. So that's
it's
a
back
big,
to where it used to be. Pretty much.
right. So it's a big drop, and that's a good indication for buyers, because you can go buy a house. Now you're saving about $200-300 on your payment.
That first incentive you talked about, is that income-based or is that anyone just being the first
It
time
is
home buyer?
income-based. That's first-time home buyers. So you do have to qualify for it. It is a special program, and if you qualify for it,
Is there any last-minute advice you have for our viewers you would like to impart on before we leave?
As of right now, yes, we do want to talk. Said go out and buy. Definitely go out and buy. And if you're selling, it's also a good time as well.
Okay, good. Okay, we're about to take a short break, but stay with us. After the break, we're going to talk about the current trends in the housing market, local housing market, and we'll be right back after the break, so stay tuned.
I would like to share with you information on free financial education classes offered by First Home Alliance and encourage you to register and attend. Our class topics include setting your financial goals, managing your money, paying yourself first, restoring credit, establishing and maintaining good credit, identifying and understanding net worth, and most importantly, obtaining your financial fitness goals. First Home Alliance is a not-for-profit, HUD-approved housing counseling agency serving Northern Virginia and the National Capital Area. You can also find other HUD-approved agencies in your area that provide housing counseling services free of charge by searching the HUD website at www.hud.gov. Please don't forget about our free homebuyer classes held every third Saturday of each month. We'll be right back after the break on more financial planning.
Welcome back. You are watching Rock Your Block, and today's segment of First Home Alliance with our special guest, Nouman Mirza. We would like to go into why should a seller sell their home today? Why would you think?
Like I was mentioning right before the break, it is a good time for a buyer to get into the market to buy a home, because you've got different incentives, grants, and low interest rate to add on top of that, no mortgage or lower mortgage insurance. For that reason, it's also a good time for a seller as well. Just because in the last year, you mentioned earlier, home prices have gone up by 7.8%, but there were about 8% new listings on the market between January of 2014 to January of 2015. So for a seller, it's a good incentive because there's more buyers that are starting to come back into the market. As buyers come into the market, if the supply is not there, there's nothing to buy. What that tends to do is, obviously, it'll increase the prices a little bit, but as prices keep going up, buyers also tend to get discouraged. And we had a similar issue, happen in the past where buyers started to get discouraged, and as they got discouraged, what they did was they just said, you know what, I'll buy next year. I'll buy in 2 years. And now sellers are putting their houses on the market, and nobody was coming and buying. So for sellers, as buyers keep coming into the market, it's also important for sellers to keep coming into the market. A couple of reasons. Seller can also now sell their home and go out and buy another home with using all those incentives. You can essentially sell that home that you bought a few years back with 5%, 6% interest rate that was an ARM, and now get into a 4% fixed rate for 30 years. So there's that incentive. Prices are starting to stabilize, so most sellers are actually breaking even on their sales price. The other advantage that sellers have is whether they decide not to sell. There's a few homes out there that are not where the people are going to make money or break even. They can turn that property into a rental and go out and buy another home. And then as they have a rental, 2 years from now, they can go out and sell it again. Or 3 years from now, 1 year from now, as market improves, conditions improve.
What about the fact of not becoming overextended? Because if you keep the house as a rental, you'll still have that mortgage on your credit, and then it may be difficult to try to get a new mortgage, correct?
That is, and that is a very valid concern. What happens is each situation is different, and we kind of have to just sit down with a loan officer and take a look at that situation. The biggest thing that we look at is if, let's say your mortgage is $1,300, and you can rent that property for $1,600. It's positive cash flow. So you can actually write a letter of explanation to the lender and get that waived. Not all lenders do it, but I do have some that do, and I like to get people in touch with those people, lenders, so you do end up in a positive cash flow situation.
Yeah, you mentioned that was on the seller side. Now, what would be an incentive for the first-time home buyers? You mentioned grants. Is that is income based, I guess?
Right, that is income
particular
based.
Ceiling? I mean, what would you say is the highest income a person can make and still get a grant?
It actually it is income based, but it's also area dependent. So it depends on which area you're purchasing it in. And there's so many different programs. We could go on forever talk about those programs, and we'd run out of time. So it is area dependent. The best advice I give to people is sit down with a loan officer and call them. And if you don't know a loan officer, give me a call. I'll be more than happy to get you in touch with somebody. So it's always, I like to get people in front of the right people so they have all the knowledge, make the decision that they need to make.
Nouman, we talked pretty much about the real estate. Maybe we can just talk a little bit about your other avocation, I would say, being a pilot. Is there any correlation you can see between being a pilot and a real estate magnate, real estate broker?
Yeah, I have. I mean, like, I've only been in the business since 2009, and I've excelled in just about everything that I can possibly do in real estate, and I continue to excel. And mainly it has to do with my background, my training, and I think I've brought in some of my flying training into this, where when I mentioned earlier, when we first set up, I got everything set up online. But even as we work with different agents, as they do different things, they actually follow a checklist. As I'm flying an airplane, we've got checklists. There's certain things that need to be done before we get the end result, before we can take off the airplane and land. And I follow that same concept in my real estate career as well. So as agents work in my office, when we start with a client, we get a checklist. We build everything. We go, this is what we need to do from day 1 to day 30. And even after the deal is closed, this is what we continue to do to make sure those clients are in a good financial health, good positive cash flow situation. So yeah, the flying did affect my decision making. It brought into my real estate career a lot of what I do and why I'm successful.
Would you say that, I know at one point when the housing markets had somewhat deteriorated, many agents were getting out of the business. Have you seen an increase in people coming back into the field?
I have.
Part-time or full-time?
As people were getting out of the business, we were getting into the business. And from that day on, we actually brought in a lot of people into the business. I teach classes for real estate, and I brought a lot of people in, taught them. And even now, we still teach classes, and I teach people on how to come in. I have seen a rise in the last 6 months or so, where there's been a lot more people that have come into those classes, want to get licensed. And it's actually a mix of part-time and full-time agents. There's a lot of part-time agents that actually want to leave their current job and get into real estate full-time. One of the things I can tell just about every real estate agent that's out there or that wants to become a real estate agent, it isn't a part-time job. It does require your full dedication, so it's good to have either a team in place that can help you out with that full dedication, or you've got procedures and steps in place. A lot of people think it's, oh, let's get rich quick overnight, sell a few homes, and we've got a bunch of money. It actually takes a lot of work. You don't just sell a few homes, and you actually have to help the client. You have to figure out what they want, listen to their every single need, and actually service the client. And once you've provided your full services to the client, the money will come. So it's always help people first, and everything else follows.
What advice you would have for, I would say, we talked about you help people with foreclosures. How do you go about that? I mean, help people from being...
Sure. There's different aspects of it with the foreclosure. One, it's either somebody's coming to us and saying the bank has given them the foreclosure letter, and we'll actually talk to them about their options. Some of the options are, doing a short sale, a deed in lieu, and there's times where we actually just have to go to the foreclosure auction and purchase the home.
And if it's a loan, if it's involved a loan modification, I'm sure you'll refer them to First Home Alliance that will help.
Of course.
Help with the lender, because First Home Alliance has been pretty good in helping people modify their loans with the lender, especially some of the big ones that were considered somewhat part of the cause of the housing collapse. We've been pretty good.
And that's what we do. We try to find every option there is. Work with local companies that have had a success rate, like First Home Alliance, and then get them out there and say, these are your options. This is what we can do. Bring people in, help them either with doing a short sale, loan modification, whatever is necessary. Our first goal always is to help people save their home. If we can save their home, great. If we can't save their home, we try to figure out a way to either put them in another home, use one of our investors to buy this home from them, and let them continue to stay. So that's always, home is first. It's where your kids have grown up, where the family's grown up, so we do understand that, and we take a lot of pride in that.
Earlier we talked about real estate trends in terms of young folks. How do you find young people in terms of buying? I know that with student loans, that can be a deterrent in qualifying for a mortgage.
Sure.
And a student loan can be with a young person for maybe 20 years, but to make those payments. So how do you work with people who have that situation?
The biggest concern that I've seen with younger folks, the millennials, is not only the student loans, but a lot of them are staying with their parents just because there's so much debt and there's not enough jobs out there for the income. One of the biggest things that they have to realize is you don't have to buy big. We can start small, but you can also rent. Rent a smaller apartment. If you can only afford $1,200 a month, let's get you into that $1,200 a month. If you can't afford that $1,200 a month, start paying your parents something. Create a legal lease. The reason I say this is because when you do get yourself in a position to buy and you're ready to buy, that lease goes a long way. You can actually show that to a bank and say, look, here's a lease. Yes, even though the lease was with my parents, but I actually created a lease, and here's the last, 24 months of checks that I wrote out to them, and here's money that was deposited into their account. So now you've created a process where you're showing that you're responsible, and that's one of the biggest fears that millennials have. They're like, oh, nobody's going to give me loans because I don't qualify. Well, you can get a mortgage if you create a track record,
and also to show that they would not be successful in what they call a mortgage shock, a payment shock, when you go from paying zero or nothing to $1,200 or $1,300.
That's absolutely it. And with FHA, one of the benefits that some of the lenders are doing is if you don't have a traditional credit score established, so let's say you don't have like 600-700 credit score established, you can get a letter or a lease or checks. So that is a good credit source.
They still have gift loans, right? Was it gift loans or not? A gift letter. You can still do gift letters.
Yes,
right?
Gift letter where you're using funds from somebody else to pay the down payment. But once again, millennials, you're not making that much yet, so you can buy a lower price home using one of the government programs where you're paying nothing out of your pocket.
Okay, we're nearing the conclusion of our show, but before we close, I want to thank Nouman for coming on our show. Nouman, thank you very much. And our guest today shared his expertise in real estate, and he gave some great tips to help you be successful. If you have questions, contact Nouman and visit his website, which should be at the bottom of the screen. Now it is time to check our inbox. This is where we share a recent question sent to us from our viewing audience in reference to housing and housing financial education. Today's question comes from Fairfax, Virginia. How quickly can I get things off my credit report? If you submit an inquiry to have the item removed from your credit report file, the credit bureau agency has 30 days to investigate the matter if they are unable to verify the information from the creditor. The information will be temporarily removed from your credit report. However, once the information is verified and proven to be correct, it will be placed back on your report file. If proven incorrect, it will remain off. Be mindful of places that say they can fix your credit. First Home Alliance helps individuals establish good credit and restore damaged credit. Check out our Flex Boot Camp for more information. If you have questions concerning financial education or home ownership, email our inbox at help@First Home Alliance, or you can get questions answered. And tune in to our next show to see if your question has been selected to be shared with our audience. If you want to find out more about the service of First Home Alliance provides, please visit our website. Thank you for watching Rock Your Block and today's segment of First Home Alliance. I'm Don Scoggins, and I hope you enjoyed our show today.
Flex Boot Camp is a pilot program. We are seeking applicants that are serious about getting into financial shape. You must be willing to commit for 12 months, covering 10 financial education modules and receiving monthly confidential one-on-one financial coaching to help you reach your financial goals. If you're interested, please visit our website for more information.